in front of everyone made him look bad. He coughed and looked around at the others with an awkward expression. "Auntie, don't say that to Zane. He didn't do it on purpose. Our recent family matters were settled by Zane's father." Rose pulled Sue's hand toward her and whispered, "Zane has helped our family so much." Hearing Rose's words, Sue was slightly stunned. She looked at Zane with a steady gaze and said to her, "Rose, are you going to defend him?" Of course, Sue knew about Rose's recent situation with Donald and Lucille Brennan. When she had heard that Rose had provoked the Heavenly Lion group, she had been extremely anxious and had sent people to find some connections. However, these connections turned out to be useless because the Heavenly Lion group was too strong. Later, Rose had called and said it had all been settled. Sue was relieved, but it aroused her curiosity. Who had her niece found to settle the matter in less than a day? Sue wondered. Was it this young man in front of her? No matter how Sue looked at it, it didn't seem right. "Auntie," Rose glanced at Sue with displeasure, "Zane's company is not small, and his father had a meal with President Chase. Helping them out is not a big deal. It's rude of you to question Zane." "Silly girl, things are not as simple as you think. What sort of status does the president of the merchant union have? Do you think you can make a move just by eating a couple of simple meals?" Sue was much more mature than Rose, and she had experience with the merchant union before as well. She knew that it was not that simple. "Ma'am, the solution your family tried was not working, so I asked my father to help." Zane spoke up. Sue had embarrassed him a lot. He continued, "When your family was at a loss for what to do, I helped you guys out big time, yet you still treat me with the same attitude. Don't you feel embarrassed?" Sue was truly angered by Zane's word. "I'm just saying, it isn't an easy task to get President Chase to make a move," Sue said with a dark expression. "You still don't believe me?" Zane showed a slightly surprised expression and took out his phone. He glanced at Sue with a smile and said, "I'll call my dad to confirm it in front of you and Rose, okay?" Zane sneered and dialed his father's number. "Hey, Dad, let me ask you something. Yesterday I told you to help Rose with her family's matter. Didn't you go to look for President Chase?" he asked casually. "Ah, this matter. I forgot to tell you about this, my son," Zane's father replied. "I went to look for him yesterday, but President Chase's secretary said that he couldn't see me. It's just that President Chase was too busy at work and didn't have time to talk, so I left a message in the end," his father told Zane. Zane's father didn't know what was going on with Zane, so he told the truth. Zane's heart skipped a beat, and his face instantly felt a little hot. It turned out that it wasn't because of his dad. Episode 15, Rose's Auntie and the Box. Yesterday, Rose Scott had thought that her problems were solved because of Zane Harrison's help. And Rose had said that it was due to President William Chase's help, so Zane didn't have the slightest doubt in his mind that it was because of his father's influence. Zane looked at the others with a bit of guilt. They were all looking at him and feeling very uneasy. "Okay, thank you, Dad. Rose is also very grateful to you," Zane said loudly. With that, he hung up the phone. Zane turned to look at Sue, Rose's aunt. His eyes flickered slightly as he forced himself to calm down. He said, "I've checked with my dad. It was my dad who called President Chase yesterday. We solved this problem." "Auntie, look, it's like I told you earlier. It must have been because of Zane's help, but you're still so suspicious of him." Rose's eyes showed a hint of complaint. She looked at Zane and smiled sweetly. "Zane, don't blame my aunt. She's a little too careful sometimes." "Why would that be? Don't worry," Zane said as he smiled. Sue was still a little hesitant, and she wanted to confirm this herself. But at that moment, her attention was no longer on Zane. Girl, I came to see you in a hurry. I didn't even eat lunch. I'm starving, Sue said, rubbing her stomach. Auntie, I'm sorry, okay? Oh, right, my friends haven't eaten either. Why don't I order some takeout for you? I'll order some, Rose said to Sue after looking at her friends who had been with her all morning. All right, Sue said. We can order takeout, but I'm really hungry now. The others all responded. Hey, what's this? Sue happened to glance at the box of food on the floor and walked over. Auntie, don't touch that thing. It's only $1 or $2 worth of fried noodles and rice. I'm going to give it to the cleaners later to feed the dogs, Rose frowned. Rose, no matter how much money it is, how can I just throw it away like that? I'm really hungry. Let's eat something first, Sue said as she opened the box. A rich fragrance instantly wafted out from the box. It smells so good, exclaimed one friend. Why is it so fragrant? Asked another. What's inside? Wondered yet another. Everyone in the room gasped in wonder and surrounded the boxes of food. Sue took out all the smaller boxes that were inside and placed them on the cabinet beside the bed. This is Louis XIII from 1980. She pulled out a flat, round bottle of sparkling red wine. This bottle of Louis XIII is over $6,000, she exclaimed as the others gawked at the wine bottle in Sue's hand. Auntie, are you sure? Rose looked at Sue in disbelief. No matter what, she couldn't link the $6,000 bottle of Louis XIII with Alex Ambrose. Sue opened the bottle and sniffed, then looked at Rose happily. Really? I've sipped this wine once before when I was on business in France. It tastes exactly like this. She put down the wine bottle. The others had already opened the boxes one by one, and the fragrance filled the entire room. These are Brittany Blue Lobster, Sue exclaimed as she looked at the blue lobster in the box. What? What is a Brittany Blue Lobster? The others looked around at each other in confusion. Brittany Blue Lobsters are the world's first choice for seafood dishes in Michelin restaurants. It's a very rare kind of lobster. The chances of it being caught are only 1 in a million, so there are very few in the country, Sue continued. I often need to eat with guests at work, so I know quite a lot about famous ingredients like this. This is Kobe steak, Sue exclaimed again as she looked back into the box. Look, this steak looks like a snowflake with fat and thin patterns like marble. This is the most obvious way to recognize a Kobe steak. This is caviar from the Neva River, she went on. This is Japanese white puffer fish. Sue pulled out more delicacies. Hungarian mag ritzer pig. Sue was astounded. Her surprises continued as they took out food items. Oh my gosh, these dishes are all made from top quality ingredients. The taste and price are way beyond that of an average restaurant. To be able to use so many of the world's most rare ingredients, I've never even seen this in a high-class hotel before. Sue's eyes sparkled. Auntie, we've never eaten these delicacies before. Are you trying to tease us? Rose knew that Sue was experienced and knowledgeable, but she just didn't believe that Alex would bring her such expensive food. Hey, do you think your auntie is joking with you? Sue glanced at Rose speechlessly. These dishes are still hot. Let's hurry up and get started eating them. It won't taste as good once it gets cold. Yup, it's delicious, said one friend. It's so fragrant. I've never eaten such delicious food, said another. After eating, the others in the room all sighed with praise. Rose, you should try it too. Susan passed a pair of chopsticks to Rose. Rose hesitantly picked up a piece of Kobe steak and put it in her mouth. An indescribable taste filled her senses. It was even more delicious than any steak she had ever eaten before. These dishes were simply too delicious. Plus, no one had eaten lunch yet. The dozen or so boxes of food were all polished off quickly. Well, I didn't expect that there would be someone who would give you such fantastic dishes. Sue smiled in satisfaction and looked at her watch. It's getting late. It's time for me to go back. With that, Sue walked to the door of the room, turned to Rose and said, Rose, only a rich person could give you such a rare and expensive gift. These things are not something that can be eaten just because you have some money. Rich person? Could that describe Alex? Thought Rose. After Sue left, Susan walked to Rose's side and said, Rose, it seems that you've misunderstood Alex. I think you should find some time to apologize to him. Me? Apologize? Asked Rose. Rose was speechless, but she still hated Alex. Why apologize to him? How could a poor man like that be able to afford such expensive dishes? I think it must be because he worked at some hotel somewhere and brought back leftovers from somebody else's meals. What? Susan didn't expect Rose to say that. These dishes were intact. How could they be packaged? Besides, how could a hotel let employees walk away with a $6,000 bottle of Louis XIII? Thought Susan. The group dispersed after they finished their meal at the hospital. Alex told a small lie and said that he was working in a high-end hotel in the city. His boss felt sorry for him, so he gave him the food. Joe and the others asked him again, but Alex didn't say anything more about it. So they had no choice but to give up. After the afternoon class, Alex followed the stream of students out of the building. Alex, a girl's voice rang out from behind him. You haven't watched my live stream, have you? Alex turned around. The girl was Minnie Jones, who ran the live stream that Alex and his dormmates were watching days before. I've streamed twice already. I haven't seen you in the streaming room. Hurry up and register an account. Help me see how I can increase my popularity. Minnie pouted and looked at Alex in dissatisfaction. Minnie, what's the use of having him pay attention to you? You can't be interested in him, right? Teased the girl beside Minnie. I just wanted him to make me more popular. Minnie lowered her head slightly and whispered, Why would I fall in love with him? Stop joking with me. It's the same whether you have him or not. From what I heard, he definitely won't help you. He's very stingy. Kathy, Alex's ex, casually said as she walked over from the back. Kathy's right. What's the use of having fans that don't help others? Another girl said from beside Minnie, glancing at Alex. The girls chatted with each other. Last time, that tycoon in your live blog was too awesome. He gave me over $1,000 on top of what others had given. That guy was no ordinary tycoon. That's right, I watched it. Yesterday, Minnie made it to the top 300. A host who just started streaming twice could make it into the top 300. Minnie's future's limitless. Minnie, when you become a big streamer in the future, don't forget your good sisters. The girls beside Minnie were trying to win her favor. Minnie instantly became the target of all the girls' flattery, becoming the center of their attention. Kathy felt a little uncomfortable as she stood off to the side. In the past, she was almost as popular as Minnie among the other girls, but now she was being ignored. Kathy's heart was thumping. What's so special about it? Isn't it just acting flirtatiously in the live stream, luring the tycoons into giving her help? If I did a live stream, would that tycoon still be there to help you? At that moment, a black Passat drove slowly to the front of the building. The window of the car was open, and the person driving was a boy from the university. Many students who passed by looked at him with envy. The car stopped, and a casually dressed boy got out. Billy Wilde, Kathy explained in surprise when she saw the boy. Billy, I'm here. Saying that, Kathy waved her hand and ran toward Billy with a smile. Billy grabbed Kathy's hand. Kathy took the initiative and kissed him lightly on the lips. Everyone looked at them. Billy opened the car door for Kathy. Then he got back into the driver's seat and drove away slowly. Kathy looked out the window and saw the envious gazes from the other students. She felt extremely satisfied in her heart. After all, there were only a handful of people who could afford to drive a car in university. Kathy felt that she had gained a lot of faces. It was a good choice for me to give up on Alex, that pauper. It would have never been possible for Alex to pick me up in a car like this, she thought. And today, they even kissed in front of Alex. Kathy felt extremely satisfied. Alex, open your eyes and see what kind of life I will have after I left you. It's 100 times better than being with you, she unkindly thought to herself. Episode 16, Table Number 8. "Darling, where are we going?" Kathy asked. The more she looked at Billy, the more attractive he seemed to become. "Wait and see," Billy smiled. Keeping one hand on the steering wheel, he placed his other hand on her thigh and started rubbing gently. He was popular with the girls, so dating him made Kathy look cool. If he made a move on her, would she stop him? She glanced at his hand on her thigh, but she said nothing. Finally, they stopped in front of a restaurant. "Wow, the Chez Laurent. Honey, is this where we're eating?" Her eyes widened in disbelief. Chez Laurent was one of the top restaurants in New York. "Surprised? Come on, let's go in. I made a reservation," he said with a smile. He had paid a lot of money for a table here, much more than he could afford. The restaurant was far too expensive for students, but it was worth it to make Kathy so happy. She took his arm and they walked into the restaurant. As soon as they stepped inside, a young waiter walked over to greet them. "Hello, welcome to Chez Laurent. Do you have a reservation?" He blushed as he spoke and then gave them an embarrassed smile. "I'm sorry, this is only my first day and I'm still learning the ropes." "It's fine," Billy said. "I have a reservation under Wilde." "Ah, Mr. Wilde, you're at table 8. Please follow me," the waiter said, leading the way to their table. Looking around, Billy and Kathy were more than satisfied with their surroundings. "Oh, this is lovely," Kathy said. "Just what you'd expect from such an upmarket restaurant. I've never eaten anywhere so nice." The restaurant was very romantic with a lot of open space, comfortable chairs, crystal chandeliers, luxurious tablecloths, and candles on every table. Just as they sat down, a small group of musicians came over to their table, playing the accordion and a violin while someone else sang. Everyone was watching their table with envious expressions, and Kathy felt like a princess. "Thank you so much, darling. This is wonderful," she said, remembering how Alex had only taken her to the cheapest places. Thank goodness she had ditched him. She took out her phone and began recording herself. "Come on, baby, get into the shot with me." They filmed themselves, making sure everyone could see the restaurant behind them. Billy posted the video and tagged his friends, specifically mentioning where they were. Within minutes, people began to reply. "Kathy, you're eating at Chez Laurent? That's amazing," one person said. Someone else said, "I'm so jealous. No one has ever taken me there." "Oh, you are being spoiled," said a third person. The comments made Kathy's heart swell with pride and confirmed that she'd been right to get rid of Alex. If she'd stayed with him, then she'd never have been able to eat at Chez Laurent. When Alex saw the video of Kathy and Billy kissing, he felt a little upset. But mostly he felt sorry for Kathy because she didn't know what she was getting into. He knew exactly what kind of person Billy was, and yet she chose to be with him. What a stupid decision. Billy drove a Volkswagen Passat, while Alex had a Ferrari. "You're still thinking about her, aren't you?" A woman's voice came from beside him. Startled, he turned his head and saw Emma. He hadn't even noticed her arrive. "No, she's not worth thinking about," he smiled faintly. "Good. She doesn't deserve your attention. She gave up on a good man like you for a loser like Billy," Emma said, shaking her head. She looked at Alex, her eyes sparkling. "Come on, let's go. I'll treat you. We can go wherever you want." Oh. Her words reminded him that he'd promised to buy her a meal, but he'd been busy lately and hadn't had time. "No, I'll treat you this time," he said. "Why don't we go to Chez Laurent?" "Alex, I know you've just had your heart broken, so I understand wanting to keep up appearances, but it's not necessary," she said, smiling at him. She knew Chez Laurent wasn't a place that students could afford. "Just trust me." Alex couldn't be bothered to explain. They left campus and hailed a taxi to take them to Chez Laurent. When they arrived, Alex took her hand, and they strolled up to the doors of the restaurant. Emma panicked. She tugged at his hand to stop him. "Alex, stop playing around," she said. "We don't belong here." He smiled and said, "Don't worry. I'm treating you, remember? It'll be fine, I promise." He then pulled her into the restaurant. As they stepped inside, She saw the golden decorations and felt a little uneasy. Her legs felt like rubber, and she nervously chewed her lip. "I need to use the bathroom," she said. "Okay, I'll walk you over there," he replied. Emma walked into the ladies' bathroom while Alex went to wash his hands. As he came back out, he saw Kathy and Billy approaching. Kathy was wiping at a mark on her skirt as she hurried to the bathroom to clean up. "What are you doing here?" She hadn't expected to see Alex. "Kathy." Alex stared at her. "Did you just dare to speak to Kathy?" Billy asked, taking a step forward. Anger had his lips drawn tight. This time he would make sure Alex listened to him. "I'm warning you one last time, don't even say her name. Don't even think about her." Alex ignored him and went to move away from them. Kathy rolled her eyes, and as Alex moved past her, she stuck out her foot and tripped him, causing him to stumble into the wall. Then she looked right at him and smirked. "You." He glared at her as he straightened up. She giggled. "Well, you deserve it." Alex didn't want to fight with them. "I don't want any trouble," he thought. "Why can't they just let me leave?" When he tried to move around them, Kathy nudged Billy with her shoulder and tilted her head toward Alex. Billy understood and moved to block his path. "You want to leave?" Billy asked, smirking. "Not so fast. Call me sir, and I might let you go." Kathy sneered at Alex and said, "You must have snuck in. Losers like you don't belong here. If you don't leave now, I'll call security and they'll throw you out." She wanted to see Alex humiliate himself by having to call Billy sir. She enjoyed bullying Alex. It was so much fun. Alex was furious. "They've already won," he thought, "and they still won't leave me alone." Emma walked out of the bathroom just in time to hear Kathy's words. "Kathy, stop it! What did we ever do to you?" she asked. "What right do you have to call security on us?" She glared at Kathy. "Oh, so you're here too," Kathy sneered. "What a pair of losers." She looked them both up and down. "Why shouldn't I have you removed? There's no way you're here to eat. This isn't a KFC, you know. You can't just walk in here whenever you want." Emma was so stunned by Kathy's aggression that she was lost for words. But she was also aware that there was some truth to what Kathy said. Alex must have been joking about eating here. Now Emma wanted to leave. She hadn't expected to run into Kathy and Billy, and she just couldn't take any more of their attitude. She had no idea what to do, and it was best if they left as soon as possible. "Alex, let's go." Emma grabbed Alex's hand and turned to leave. "And now you expect to just sneak away?" Billy asked. He and Kathy blocked the way out, and Kathy started shouting. "Everyone, look here! These people came in to use the toilet, and they're not even customers! Where's the manager? Where's the manager?" Her shouts grabbed the attention of all the customers in the restaurant. "Hey, look at this couple," she continued. "They sneaked into Chez Laurent just to use the high-class toilets without spending any money on a meal. Do you think that should be allowed?" Several customers started to cheer her on. "This restaurant needs to keep out the riffraff. How can they just walk in here and use the toilet?" she asked. "There are plenty of public toilets. Why can't they go there? Did they just want to use a fancy toilet for free? Do they have no shame?" She shook her head. "Maybe it's even worse than that. Maybe they're hoping no one will notice and they can find a corner to sleep in." The manager finally came over, and Kathy went to meet him, pointing at Alex and Emma. Her tone sharp, she asked, "What are you going to do about this? If just anyone can come in and use the toilets, then your hotel will get a terrible reputation." "Please wait a moment," the manager responded, smiling apologetically. He turned to Alex. "The facilities are for customers only. I'm sorry, but you'll have to leave." "Alex, let's go," Emma said quietly. Everyone was staring and she felt embarrassed. But Alex took her arm, stopping her from leaving. "No, we're staying," he said. "The manager has told you to go, and yet you're still here," Kathy said, her voice growing louder again. "You are completely shameless, aren't you? You're still determined to hang around us, even though we're so much better than you. It's disgusting. Are you deliberately trying to ruin our meal? And don't you care about destroying the reputation of Chez Laurent?" The manager also believed that Alex was deliberately causing trouble. He frowned. "Sir, please leave now or I'll have to call security." Kathy was delighted. She was looking forward to watching Alex being dragged away by security guards. Alex looked at the manager and said, "I have a reservation." "You've booked a table here?" Kathy gaped in surprise and then laughed loudly. What a joke, she thought. Even if a poor loser like Alex could eat at Chez Laurent, then it would lower the value of the place, and it would no longer be one of the most exclusive restaurants in New York. "Oh, Alex, you are stupid," she thought. "You're just saying that to get back at me, aren't you? But you'll just fail even more miserably, and it's going to be so much fun to watch." She could hardly wait to see the embarrassment on his face when the manager challenged him. Everyone watched, waiting to see what happened. Alex's clothes didn't suggest that he could afford a reservation at Chez Laurent. "Sir, please don't make a scene. If you refuse to leave, then I'm sorry, but I will have you removed." The manager lifted a walkie-talkie, clearly about to summon security. Emma was worried. She frantically tried to think a way out of this, but she was only a poor student and there was nothing she could do. "I've reserved table 8, Alex said calmly. "If you don't believe me, then check." With that, Alex brought out his phone and showed the manager the text that confirmed his reservation. "You've booked table 8? Kathy asked. "What a coincidence. We also booked table 8. Isn't that interesting?" She burst out laughing. Alex must have forged a message from the restaurant before he came here, she thought. Imagine pretending to have a reservation and managing to pick the same table number as me. The manager took Alex's phone and checked it. He smiled as he returned the phone, his tone now respectful as he said, "I'm sorry for the misunderstanding, sir. It was our mistake. I'll take you to your table." Episode 17, The Fake Lottery Win. Kathy was stunned. "No, you must have misunderstood. The text message must be a fake." Billy took out his cell phone and showed the manager the confirmation of his reservation. "We booked table 8. The manager checked Billy's text message and smiled politely. "Yes, you did reserve table 8, but your table is in the general section, and Mr. Ambrose's table is in the VIP section." "What?" Kathy exclaimed. "He is in the VIP section?" She stared at the manager in surprise. Alex was a loser and didn't even have the money to eat in the university cafeteria. So how could he possibly afford such a good table at Chez Laurent? She simply couldn't believe it. To make up for his mistake, the manager personally showed Alex and Emma to their table. When he arrived at table 8, the manager frowned. The table had been reserved, but it wasn't ready. Dirty dishes still sat there untouched, and there was no clean cutlery. "Please wait a moment," the manager said, his expression grim. He called over a nearby waiter. "What's going on here? Our guests have arrived, and this table hasn't been cleared yet." "The guests at this table have been here for a while," the waiter said, frowning. "I believe they went to the bathroom." "What?" The manager was angry as he held out an arm to indicate Alex and Emma. "These are the guests at this table, and they've only just arrived. So who have you been serving?" "Oh." The waiter flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'll go check what's going on." Then he fled. "Hey, why are you two loitering at our table?" Kathy asked as she walked over, her arm around Billy. "You've been eating at this table?" the manager asked politely. "Yes, why? What's wrong?" Kathy asked, puzzled. The waiter returned with a younger colleague. "Sir, he seated the wrong customer at this table." The young waiter lowered his head and said, "I'm sorry, sir. This is my first shift, so I'm not familiar with the seating plan yet. The customer at this table had a reservation for table 8, and I accidentally brought him to a VIP table instead of taking him to the regular section." The manager looked at Billy and Kathy. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Would you mind moving to a regular table? Our VIP guests have already been waiting for a while." Kathy's mouth fell open in shock. "He expects me to move aside for Alex?" she thought. "No, not. That's unacceptable." "No way." She flatly refused, crossing her arms. The manager struggled with his dilemma. Well, are you sure you still want to eat here? Of course we want to eat here, she scowled. We refuse to go anywhere else. She stubbornly glared at him. The manager sighed to himself. Fine, but as I've already explained, the cost of a VIP table is much higher than a regular one. So be it. We're already here, so obviously we're not worried about the cost, she sneered, seemingly unconcerned. She simply couldn't allow Alex to steal the limelight. You just had to come and play the big man, didn't you, Alex? She thought. And I took your place. You're not so important now, are you? How much more? Billy asked, feeling a little nervous. Kathy might not care, but she wasn't the one paying for it. He was. The food you already ordered costs around $1,000. Then there are $200 for the reservation, $300 for the VIP room, $400 for the musicians, $190 for the special tableware. Billy was shocked. The total was more than $2,000. His heart started to beat faster, and his face burned with embarrassment. I can't afford this, he thought. What am I going to do? Kathy, let's just go and sit in the regular section, he murmured to her. No, baby, I like this table and I want to stay here. She was not going to back down in front of Alex. You want to stay? Fine. Then you can stay here by yourself because I'm going. Billy was furious. He didn't have enough money, and if he stayed here, he'd be humiliated. With that, he stormed out, and Kathy was on her own. Her mouth hung open as she watched him leave. She looked around and realized she was standing by herself in the middle of the restaurant, and she didn't have much money. Everyone was staring at her, and she'd never been so embarrassed. She glared at Alex and then hurried after Billy. The manager had the waiter clear the table, and then he asked Alex and Emma to take their seats. Various exquisite dishes were brought to the table, and the musicians returned to perform for them. A waiter stood by, ready to fetch whatever they wanted. Kathy and Billy decided to stay at the restaurant. Even though things had become awkward, they didn't want to waste the opportunity to eat at Chez Laurent. They sat at table 8 in the regular section of the restaurant. And from their new table, they could see Alex and Emma in the VIP section. Seeing how superior Alex's table was, Kathy grew sullen. The loser she had dumped was sitting in the most important part of the restaurant, eating expensive dishes and being fawned over. Jealousy gnawed at her, and she barely tasted her meal. She may as well have gone to the university cafeteria. She was also very confused. Eating in the VIP section would cost at least $2,000. Even Billy couldn't afford it. So why was Alex so calm? Shouldn't he be panicking? Where on earth could he have got that kind of money? She stared at Alex, her mind spinning, as she continued to stuff food into her mouth. After all, this was Chez Laurent, so she was going to make the most of it. In the VIP section, Emma was just as confused. She sat at the table, wondering what was going on. Alex, how did you get this table? And do you have enough money to pay for this? She asked doubtfully. Don't worry, I promise I won't embarrass you, he said with a faint smile. Where did you get the money? She asked again. He thought for a moment. I won the lottery. I guess I just got lucky. I bought a bunch of tickets, and I won $150,000. Revealing the truth would cause far too much trouble, and he couldn't risk their friendship by explaining who he was. She frowned at him. You can't waste your money like this. You just spent $2,000 for this meal? If you keep this up, you'll spend all your money in no time. It's fine, it's just money. He didn't seem to care. You're a good friend, and I take care of my friends. I promised to bring you to Chez Laurent, and here we are. Emma was moved by his words. She thought he was rather cute. When they'd finished their meal, Alex paid the bill, and they left. Kathy and Billy had left earlier. Billy had planned to take Kathy to Chez Laurent for dinner before getting a room and spending some time with her. But after making a fool of himself at the restaurant, he was no longer in the mood to hang out with her. Instead, He left her at the entrance to the female dormitory and went off alone. Alex went back to his dorm room and lay on his bed. When he'd been with Emma at Chez Laurent, he'd noticed Kathy was watching him with a strange expression. The corner of his mouth twitched in a half smile. He'd been willing to give Kathy everything when they were together, but now he was shocked to realize he was glad she'd made a fool of herself. She wasn't worth thinking about. This is only the beginning, he thought. From now on, you can do whatever you want, Kathy. I don't care anymore. Meanwhile, Kathy had already returned to the dorm. She was still racking her brains, trying to make sense of it all. Is Alex really rich? She wondered. She decided to swallow her pride and ask Emma. She pushed open the door to Emma's dormitory and walked into the middle of a heated conversation about Emma going to Chez Laurent for dinner. Everyone seemed envious. Hey, Kathy, one of the girls said, I saw your online posts. You went to Chez Laurent, didn't you? Did you see Emma there? Kathy felt a bit awkward. She had gone to Chez Laurent and seen Emma. She had accidentally taken her place and had been forced to leave. How could she possibly explain that without being humiliated? She avoided the question and looked over at Emma. Emma, can you come outside for a minute? I need to ask you something. Although Emma didn't want to speak to Kathy, she still followed her out of the dorm. Emma, was it Alex's idea to have dinner at Chez Laurent? Kathy got right to the point. Yes, why? Does it matter? Emma shrugged. Kathy was taken aback. Where did he get the money? She knew Alex was poor. There was no way he could afford to spend that much money. Why do you care? Emma narrowed her eyes. Kathy had a reason for asking. Oh, Emma, don't be so sensitive. I'm Alex's ex-girlfriend. Am I not allowed to still care about him? Not even a little? Kathy forced a smile and began to chat with Emma as though they were still on good terms. And it was working. After they'd spoken for a while, Emma started to warm to Kathy again. Emma, where did Alex get the money? Kathy asked again when she felt the time was right. Emma hesitated for a few seconds and then said, Oh, he won the lottery. He got $150,000. He won $150,000? Kathy's jaw dropped. She never expected Alex to be so lucky. Kathy, what are you thinking? Emma asked. Alex